First, I'd like to thank Conference for inviting me here today to speak. My switch from Labour hasn't been an easy one, and it came with more considerations than usual, as my mother is the current chair of the Labour NEC. Yes, it's interesting at dinner. I was working on her campaign, so it's her fault, and the penny dropped that Labour was no longer for me, and that UKIP took on many of the core values that I aspired to and that I want my daughter to aspire to, and that I think everybody in the community shares. As part of her PCC campaign, I had to tour around Kent, and I began to see firsthand the result of unfettered immigration. And it was hitting hard on our communities. I saw how much poverty there is in Kent, and we live in one of the more well-off areas of the UK. Our resources are simply being drained and abused. We have no way of clawing things back unless we leave the EU. I start saying no to legal and illegal immigrants. Until recently, Labour would not accept that immigration was an issue. I do believe that Ed Miliband came out, I think it was this week or last week, and said maybe they got it wrong. Well, that's great, but they still don't offer any answers. And what do they intend to do? I think it's just one of those things they said because they're running scared. Cameron said he will offer a referendum. Really? Is he going to? I doubt it. And will Labour offer us our say? Again, I doubt it. It was during a key campaign day in November that a Labour MP came down, and I won't mention his name, and he was trying to support us around the county. And he looked at the minimal effort put in and turned and agreed and said, well, Kent in particular gets ignored. There are no seats up for grabs. It's Tory. Let's just leave it like that and save our resources. But it needs to change, and it won't change. It will never change because they're so complacent. This angered me, as Kent is one of the main areas to truly get swamped by all types of immigration, and we are being neglected by the blasé attitude that is attributed by a complacent two-party system. I live in an old market town, and we have seen so much change, and we are simply not coping. We have a huge number of EU immigrants that we cannot deal with. School places, GP places, and housing are in such demand, and that demand cannot be met, and it isn't being met. And as well as these obvious problems that we have to cope with, the growing number of ghettoised areas, which itself causes racism and breakdowns in the heart of our communities, is becoming out of control. They say that UKIP are racist. Well, I think I proved today that they are not. I was seeing the pressures in my hometown and my home county and the neglect of the main parties. I sought something more, and it was on the PCC campaign that I met the UKIP candidate, Piers. It's a scatty thing, but, you know, he brought home the things that I really cared about, and I realised that nobody else could offer me that. They're common sense issues. They're issues that matter to everybody. And I thought that my beliefs were socialist. And I think in a way they are, because I care socially about the people around me. And that isn't a liberal attitude. It's a, we work hard and there's a safety net for the people that really need it. And that safety net is being abused all the time. And all the time, you know, if the opportunity is there for someone to take and not give back and abuse a system, then they're going to do it. It's our country's fault that we're in the state that we're in because they're not prepared to say no. They don't have a backbone because they might lose a few votes and it's uncomfortable and it's a taboo subject. Well, let's just break those taboo subjects. We need to break those taboo subjects, and I think my coming and joining UKIP was quite controversial on many levels. I've been told, but you've got mixed heritage, how can you be part of a racist organisation? I think they call it a troll now, that I had someone on Twitter keep accusing me of being of the far right. Apparently, I was being compared to the BNP, the same attitudes that they hold, just because I joined UKIP. I've had crazy letters in the post asking me to explain myself. I've had emails from people that have said, we've had to hunt down your details. And just because I'm not white, I'm not middle class, I would say I'm working class because I have to work to survive. And actually, I'm not too hung up on the class system, I must say. We just are what we are. And I've always had lots of differing opinions from the Labour Party, which was kind of nothing new, to all the other long-term members. But I began to see the negative effects of a stagnant membership, and they were there for being their sake. Labour was supposed to be the party of democracy for the working man and woman, yet the selection processes I saw no democracy. It was just a private members' club. They weren't there to serve the people, they were there to serve their own egos and not to relinquish the little power that they hold. It's being a keen doorstep campaigner that I realised I'm far from the only one that share my view, and that enough is enough. People are simply fed up with politicians and the current way of said politicians. At one point, I thought surely even the main parties have to accept the growing feeling, but they don't. They don't care. And having toyed with defecting, I stopped thinking, started doing, joined UKIP, and I've never looked back. UKIP offer a new type of politics, an awakening the most apathetic among the ever-growing despondent electorate. I know from my time on the doorstep that all people want is honesty, a straight yes or a straight no. And I think it's fair to say that people accept you can't serve all the people all the time, and that for real change, they need to go to the ballot box. But what's the point of going to the ballot box when you cast your vote and they don't adhere to the promises they've made? I think it's fair to say that the EU has had its day, and the UK, and we are plagued with 1,000,001 rules that simply defy logic or common sense, and quite frankly are outdated to wartime Europe, and that in its day had every reason to exist. However, if not careful, we will end up in a civil warring position that's ever growing, and we have had enough of all the ill effects of a non-effective state. We have seen the failure of the euro, and the UK currently feels the ill effects of ludicrous rules imposed. We need out, we need it now. UKIP are the party to do so, and return this country to something that we can be proud of. Thank you.